Good morning. The first item of business is general questions. At question number 1, I call Michelle Thompson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what the current status is of its plans to add sex to the characteristics covered by the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act 2021.
Cabinet Secretary Angela Constance.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government is currently considering responses to the public consultation on the draft SSI to add the characteristic of sex to the Hate Crime and Public Order Act, which we undertook last year, and we intend to lay the final SSI in Parliament in the coming period.
Michelle Thompson.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response, and I was listening very intently for something substantive. What I really want to know is a personal commitment from the Cabinet Secretary that the SSI will be laid before this Parliament goes into dissolution, because I cannot see how it's conceivable that sex is the only protected characteristic not covered by the Hate Crime Act, when, as the Scottish Government says itself, that sex and rather the bad behaviours that come towards women because of their sex class. And so I would seek a personal commitment from the Cabinet Secretary that it will happen. Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I very much do appreciate Mrs Thompson's interest in this matter, and if I can assure her both personally and politically that the Scottish Government wants to ensure these new criminal protections for women and girls that are provided through the Hate Crime Act for other characteristics of age, disability, religion and so forth. She'll be aware that we have to follow a super-affirmative process. That's what Parliament agreed when the hate crime legislation was passing, which meant that we had to publish a draft SSI. We have to consult on it. We are obliged to analyse the consultation and publish the consultation responses where permitted with the analysis, and that will be done when the SSI is laid, and the SSI will be laid in due course.
Tess White.
The Presiding Officer, the Minister says it will be laid in due course. We don't know when. Only this week, on Tuesday, at the Equalities and Human Rights Committee, we were informed by the Minister for Equalities that she had not met the Justice Minister. That was absolutely alarming. And the inquiry, that was in the inquiry in the 9 protected characteristics, sex being one, as now defined, clarified by the Supreme Court judgment. So my question is, Minister, you have still not included sex in the hate crime bill. You still haven't told us when. And why have you not met the Minister for Equalities?
Always through the Chair. Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, let me, in summary, repeat the essence of what I said to Michelle Thompson. I will be laying an SSI, and that SSI will be laid in time so that it is laid well in advance of this parliamentary session coming to an end, because I want to ensure that women and girls have these protections within the format of hate crime legislation, the same way that other protected characteristics do. So let me assure Chamber that that is all in hand. In terms of the second part of Tess White's question, no, the Equalities Minister has certainly not met with me in recent times around the various equality duties. What I would say, I do recall some time ago, early in the Minister's appointment as Equalities Minister, that she met with ministers collectively, and has certainly on more than one occasion reminded us all as ministers of our collective responsibilities to meet our equality duties. And if need be, we could go back into the records and find that meeting when Ms Stewart held with myself and a whole range of other ministers. But it's going back some time, and I'll have to come back to the member.
Thank you. I will remind members this is our shortest question session of the week. Concise questions and responses appreciated. Question number 2, Claire Baker.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government how many people in Mid Scotland and Fife are eligible for the pension age winter heating payment have not yet received their payment for winter 2025-26.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville.
Pension age winter heating payment will support at least 880,000 pensioners with heating bills this winter. The UK Government's 2024 decision to cut winter heating payment was a betrayal of millions of pensioners, and whilst the belated U-turn was welcome, costs are rising and many people will struggle with household bills this winter. That's why the Scottish Government is taking action and will deliver the strongest package of winter support compared to anywhere else in the UK. By the 14th of December 2025, £124.9 million was paid through over 837,000 winter heating payments, with updated figures due on the 4th of February.
Claire Baker.
So I think this actually means that around 300,000 people have not yet received their payments. And the First Minister did promise to receive them by St Andrew's Day. And now, more than 6 weeks after St Andrew's Day and well into the winter weather, there are still people wondering where those payments are. Can the Cabinet Secretary advise why it is taking so long for payments to be made and when those who are still waiting for payments will receive it? And will the Scottish Government apologise to all those pensioners who were promised payment in November and did not receive it?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the payments did begin in November, just as the Scottish Government had laid out, and those will continue through the winter. What we've also done throughout the winter, Presiding Officer, is ensure that the winter heating payment, which does go to pensioners on low incomes, is also being paid. Now, that's a payment that's not guaranteed anywhere else in the UK, but it's guaranteed here in Scotland. And what we've also paid is the children's winter heating payment to children on the highest rates of disability. That package that we have is stronger and more robust than anywhere else in the UK. That's begun in November, is moving through the winter months at the timetable as set out previously, and we are on track to deliver that this winter.
Question number 3, Rhoda Grant.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on the independent review of maternity services in Caithness, including the remit and timescale of the review, and what detail has been shared with relevant duty bearers.
Minister Jenny Minto.
Officer. The Scottish Maternity and Neonatal Task Force will look at the requirement for and scope of a national review based on the emerging themes and the outcomes of the Healthcare Improvement Scotland inspections of maternity units across Scotland and any other area the task force might identify. The Cabinet Secretary has been clear that the task force will look at rural maternity services as one of its first areas of focus and review the issues in rural communities, including Caithness and Stranraer. A full work plan will be agreed by the task force following the first meeting in January 2026, and Parliament will be updated in due course.
Rhoda Grant.
In a Freedom of Information response, NHS Highland said there's no plans for an independent review of Caithness maternity services, but rather that this would sit within the wider remit of the task force. The Cabinet Secretary knows this Parliament voted for an independent review of Caithness maternity services. The need for this was further highlighted with Caithness being cut off from the rest of the country for days during the last weeks of bad weather. No one could get to Regmore Hospital. Therefore, can I ask whether the task force will be independent of government, whether it will be specifically asked to examine all aspects of Caithness maternity services, including the journey to Inverness, and to making recommendations for the safe delivery of maternity services in the county of Caithness?
Minister.
I thank Rhoda Grant for her follow-up question, and I would like to put on record my thanks to the staff in NHS Highland in the way that they have coped with the really difficult weather, including the wonderful midwives that are based in Caithness. As I said in my first response, it's for the task force and its expert members to determine whether further action is required, and they will determine the scope. I, as Minister of Public Health and Women's Health, will be chairing it, but my co-chairs are both independent of government. Well, my co-chairs are Anne Gow and Professor Anna Glazier.
Question number 4, Jamie Hepburn.
To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on the importance of the supply chain to the Scottish whisky industry.
Minister Richard Lockhead.
The Scottish whisky industry is one of Scotland's most significant economic sectors, contributing over £5 billion in exports, and a resilient, competitive supply chain is of course essential to its continued success. And the industry supports thousands of jobs across Scotland, not only in distillation and maturation, but also in farming, malting, packaging, logistics, engineering, tourism and professional services as well. The wider supply chain is therefore integral to national economic growth and rural sustainability and export performance, and it's crucial to safeguarding the global reputation of Scotch whisky and ensuring the long-term competitiveness of the sector.
Jamie Hepburn.
The First Minister has led from the front to protect Scotch whisky from US tariffs, taking the case direct to the US Government. Has the Minister got any update as to whether the UK Government has followed this up with the United States to protect the whisky industry and its supply chain, such as Packagers Eurostampo in my constituency, who recently expanded their site in Cumbernauld with Scottish enterprise support? Or are we still left with the view that the UK Government view the Scottish food and drink sector as nothing more than a cash cow to support the UK Exchequer?
Minister.
Jamie Hepburn makes a good point in that the whisky sector is not just about distillers, it's about the wider supply chain that benefits constituencies like Jamie Hepburn's. And indeed, in terms of the tariffs issue, the First Minister was highly praised by the sector in Scotland, including my own constituency of Speyside. And he picked up the cudgels on behalf of the sector and took their case directly to the White House. And indeed, I raised these issues with my UK counterpart, Chris Bryant, just earlier this month at our meeting as well. We are still waiting for the United Kingdom Government to deliver on what we all expect, to give Scotch whisky the priority it deserves in these negotiations and secure tariff exemptions from the US. And, of course, we are also disappointed that our calls for the disparity in alcohol duty to be addressed in the latest UK budget went unheard, and instead the spirits sector faces a further increase in duty rates, which will rise by 18% in 3 years. That takes the tax burden on a bottle of Scotch to an eye-watering 72%. So I agree with the member's comments and will continue to pursue this case.
Briefest supplementary, Craig Hoy.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Having recently visited the Annandale Distillery in Dumfriesshire, I was impressed with their commitment to net zero, with a significant investment in a multi-million-pound game-changing thermal energy storage system, partly funded by the last UK Conservative Government. Therefore, can I ask the Minister what support the Scottish Government can give to the Scotch whisky industry to meet its decarbonisation and sustainability goals, not just within our world-class distilleries, but also through the wider supply chain?
Minister.
Thanks. I have not had the privilege of visiting that particular constituency in the member's area. Maybe perhaps one day I'll have that opportunity. However, in the past, in recent years, the Scottish Government has given substantial support to the whisky sector to decarbonise their operations, and they are playing a really important role in achieving the country's national aims in terms of decarbonisation, and we will continue to work in partnership with the sector going forward.
Question number 5, Sue Webber.
To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on whether reliance on local enforcement to tackle antisocial and dangerous e-scooter use is creating a postcode lottery in public safety, with some communities protected and others left exposed.
Minister Siobhan Brown.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Scottish Government does not accept that reliance on local enforcement creates a postcode lottery in public safety. Police Scotland operates within nationally set strategic police priorities, which apply to the whole of Scotland and emphasise public safety, prevention and consistency, while allowing appropriate local flexibility to respond to community needs. Scottish Government continues to support policing capacity through record funding of £1.64 billion in this financial year, and Police Scotland has a higher number of officers per capita than England and Wales, and the Scottish Government funding enables Police Scotland to take on more recruits last financial year than any other time other than 2013. Operational policing decisions, including enforcement action against illegal and antisocial e-scooter use, are rightly a matter for Police Scotland, and the member will be aware of my commitment to working collectively to address concerns raised during the debate on December the 9th, and I welcome the positive examples of Police Scotland's enforcement activity in this area.
Sue Webber.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I did struggle to hear the answer, Presiding Officer, so I'll do my best. In my region of Edinburgh, e-scooter confiscations have tripled in just 2 years, while some areas across the country have recorded none. And it is clearly a growing menace to everyday Scots who feel unsafe just walking about in their own high streets. So these statistics do state that there is a lack of consistency, and the Minister has denied that there is that postcode lottery for public safety. So can I ask, what will the Scottish Government finally press the UK Government for a clear national framework on registration, insurance and licensing, instead of letting this problem get worse?
Minister.
Thank you. And I just would like to say, I know that we've had lots of meetings over the last year or so about this, and hopefully we'll be having another one with MSPs who have an interest in this area. I just highlight Jim Fairley and Minister Jim Fairley and I did write to the UK Government regarding this in October. I received a letter last week saying Labour Government did not feel that there was any necessary legislation moving forward, which is very disappointing, but I will keep members updated on that.
Question number 6, Liz Smith.
You asked the Scottish Government what its response is to the open letter from Scotland's elite swimming athletes sent to the First Minister on the 6th of December 2025.
Cabinet Secretary Neil Gray.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government agrees there is a real opportunity to create a lasting legacy for children across Scotland from the 2026 Summer of Sport. And I know this is an area that Liz Smith cares a great deal about and shares my enthusiasm for. The 2026-27 budget announced an additional £40 million of funding for sport and physical activity. This includes the universal offer of swimming tuition for primary school children in Scotland to gain vital water safety skills, and I hope the Chamber will welcome this announcement and support the budget proposals which provide vital support for the sector and open a range of sports and activities to more children.
Liz Smith.
Well, I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response, but is he aware that earlier this morning, firstly at 9:48 and then again at 10:15, that a correction to the record was made by Shona Robson, not sure if it's another of these production errors, but to say that to the question that Jackson Carlaw asked yesterday in the budget was in fact factually inaccurate, namely that the one-year commitment is not in fact 1 year, it's being rolled out over a sustainable period. Now that is very welcome, Cabinet Secretary, but can we ask the Scottish Government what action are they taking to ensure that the 18 local authorities that are not making full provision of swimming lessons are actually now doing so, and that they have access to swimming pools in the first place?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I can confirm for the record, which I think is incredibly positive, that this is indeed recurring funding. So, and I think Liz Smith shares my enthusiasm for this, and I think this is good news in terms of swimming provision and giving children the life-saving skills, but also ensuring that we can give opportunity to the next Duncan Scotts and other elite swimmers to come through the system. In terms of progress with local authorities, it's exactly because of the variability that there is in terms of provision that we are providing this funding in order to enable them to come forward with that provision for all children, primary children in Scotland. And those engagements with local authorities will continue, and I'll make sure, given her interest, which I genuinely accept and understand, that Liz Smith is kept updated on that.
Question number 7, Bill Kidd.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how the measures announced in the draft budget for 2026-27 will further the aims of tackling child poverty.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville.
Eradicating child poverty is at the heart of the Scottish Budget and Scottish Spending Review, which outlines how we will drive continued progress. This includes developing the systems and legislation to increase the Scottish child payment to £40 for children under 1 year old. We are also investing more than £100 million across the spending review to support delivery of a universal breakfast club offer for primary school-aged children, alongside increased investment in wraparound activity clubs. And through an annual £50 million package of whole family support, we will ensure families receive the support they need when they need it.
Bill Kidd.
I thank you for that. I welcome the Government's commitment to putting the best cost-of-living support package anywhere in the UK front and centre. Particularly welcome the boost to the Scottish Child Payment, £40 for families with a baby from 2027, which has been welcomed by UNICEF and Save the Children Scotland has said it's a bold action, and this is a moment of hope for families and for all of us. Can the Minister or Cabinet Secretary say what analysis it is undertaken as to the impact of this policy on child poverty?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the new premium will undoubtedly assist and deliver increased support for families with children under 1. The Scottish Fiscal Commission estimates that around 12,000 children will receive this increased support when the payment begins in the financial year 2027-28. This support will make a real difference. I heard from mums in Pilton only this morning about what the difference the Scottish Child Payment makes and how they think the premium will make even more of a difference. And as Save the Children have said, investing in the tiniest members of our society will sow the seeds for a brighter future.